Happy business birthday to Robert Adler. This is the focus group.
It's the savvy side of 9 to 5. Listen.
Bueller.
Laugh. And learn.
Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
This is the focus group with Tim Bennett.
Staunch.
And John Nash.
Keep your clothes looking neat and clean.
We're all business. Except when we're not.
La 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 la. We're at our Christmas set, our holiday set. Are we politically correct, Mr. Nash?
Christmas set.
Christmas set.
Because there's Christmas presents behind me, and there's a Christmas tree behind me.
Look at how you match there with the, if you're watching on the video, look at how John's kind of blending into the window with the snowfall. All we need is one of our marketing partners to slide off the road in the ice. Be all set. Hey, welcome to the focus group. It's December 4th, actually. And I'm Tim Bennett here, as always, with John T. Nash, my good friend and co-host, as we plow through toward the end of the year. And be sure to find us at focusgroupradio.com. And thanks to all those that are listening to our podcast, which is TFG Unbuttoned, which is on Tuesdays in the morning. But you can find this show and all of our past shows and the podcast at focusgroupradio.com. So I mentioned Robert Adler in the beginning of the tease. Do you know what Robert Adler did without cheating, or did you look ahead?
I didn't look ahead.
Do you know who Robert Adler is? Boys in the booth, we've got Garrett and Steve with us. Do you guys know who Robert Adler is without looking ahead?
No clue.
And look, Garrett's wearing
I
his Christmas hat.
Oh, you do?
No, I don't.
See, Steve does that.
Steve's catching on.
Yeah,
Garrett's got his Santa hat on.
Ho, ho, ho.
with about as much enthusiasm as the Macy's Santa Claus.
Wouldn't he be a good Santa Claus? You'd be a good Santa Claus, Garrett. I could see you at the Macy's now. Yeah. Can you imagine?
Come here, kid. Sit on my lap.
I'd go through them quickly. Make the most money, you know.
That's how you do it, right? You get your pictures taken. Well, Robert Adler was the inventor is credited with inventing the remote control for TV.
Oh, okay.
So we'll learn about him later.
Actually, during the opening, Tim teased Robert Adler, and then he looks at me and goes, "Well, this is a hardcore show. It's a boring show."
Well, we don't want to set it up like that right away. But I looked at. I thought there were some pretty heavy topics on the show today, and I thought, well, I don't know.
I don't know if they're heavy.
Maybe they're clinical, educational. I don't know.
They were selected for precise reasons.
Curated, suppose. I guess whatever they were, I just felt like I looked at it and I thought the most exciting thing on here was the inventor of the remote control. So that's what I led with.
Right. Hey, if you want to reach out to us, by all means, drop us a note at letters@focusgroupradio.com. And we can't respond to everything, but we do love hearing from everybody. And I think I want to make a routine of this if we keep getting enough notes from people. We heard from a listener in Texas.
Texas, our biggest market, by the way. Thank you, Texas.
And I think this is our listener who sends us the Oreo care packages, so we can sample things. And so he sent me this funny note. It was after one of the days we did our deep discount read. And I always do Sharky the Shark for deep discount. I always do the pirate. Arr! So this note comes in. He says, the marketing team for a San Antonio-based grocery chain, H-E-B, must be taking its inspiration from TFG's deep discount promos. Did you all get a royalty check? So I clicked on and I watched this ad, and I watched it a couple times because it made me laugh. But I thought, wow, this is local advertising using a sports team. So Steve's going to cue it up for us.
Do we have it?
Yeah, I think we have the link. Yeah, here it is.
Wow. H-E-B seafood is really good. I love the fresh salmon.
Yeah, I could eat these bacon-wrapped shrimp poppers and scallops all day.
Sushi is my favorite.
Hold up, I just thought of an idea for a new H-E-B seafood commercial. Ahoy, mateys! Guess me favorite letter. R! No, a power's first love is the C. Are you out of your mind? Probably.
H-E-B seafood and sushi. Guaranteed fresh.
Right, Garrett? Then Garrett would go, thanks. Right, Garrett? Thanks, H-E-B.
So what's a pirate's favorite letter? R. No, C for seafood. I just laughed because I thought they didn't do such a bad job. Athletes don't make the best actors.
No, look at Lance Armstrong.
And you had that experience. What was the car shoot you were on when he was trying? And you changed. You eliminated all his lines.
All his lines. He had one line at the very end of the car at the yard. It was about we've created a monster, and it was about how this engine and the performance and the power of the car. And he had trouble delivering the lines, and so at the they're like, "How are we going to use Lance?" And I said, "Why don't we just have him come in at the very end for the last second and say boo, boo." So that's what he did.
But was Karen on that set when she called you from? Yeah.
No, we were out there together, so it's like, we've created a monster. Boo.
That's how he was doing it.
Yeah. So that was that. Martina was better. Some of the other athletes.
I don't think athletes. That's not their natural.
No, that's not their thing.
That's not their thing. Some become very good at being pitchmen, or
But I think a mistake people make is it believable that it could be believable that Martina drove a Subaru. She didn't.
She did. Oh, I thought she did.
No, she liked another car better. But these athletes drive very, very expensive super performance cars. She liked the brand. Lance liked the brand, but this wasn't the brand that they would go out and buy.
Yeah.
And it's the same with Tiger Woods. Do you really think Tiger Woods is driving a Buick?
Actually,
No.
you bring up something funny. Whenever I watch the Buick ads in general, the latest campaign is people like this guy and his wife go to the valet.
Yeah.
Is that your car? No, that's my car. And it's that.
No, my car's the one over there that used to be the European car that's now badged to Buick.
They basically took.
They took the Opals and made them Buicks. It's the same thing with, what's the other guy's name that is out there? Matthew McConaughey driving a Lincoln. Do you really think he's driving a Lincoln?
I love those ads because it's so Matthew McConaughey. One of my favorites is he's on some ferry boat and it's crossing like Puget Sound or something, and he's like, "The journey begins," da, 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 and then the car takes off. I'm like, they're not handsome cars in my opinion.
I don't think they're bad looking, but I think you make a mistake, and this is what happens in the C-suite is people get themselves all hung up about wanting to have a celebrity promote your product.
Yep.
But it has to be believable. And you could stretch that Lance with his performance in Subaru was believable. Martina, because of Martina and Subaru, was believable. But the reality was that
Didn't you and I once
sell a Kia if you give her enough money.
Didn't you and I once do? I think years and years ago when we were on satellite, you and I did we reviewed an article that looked at the economic impact of a athletic or an athlete or celebrity pitch person.
Right.
Minimal.
Yeah.
Apparently, the C-suite thinks it's the glow of the personality, it's going to rub off, and I think maybe that might be more true in cosmetics, like if you look at the Kardashians or something.
Yeah, something that and in a product like that, you could buy a $10 lipstick and not like it, and it's okay, or buy a $3 candy bar, a $2, $1 candy bar, or even a $100 pair of sneakers. But you're not going to buy a $30, $40, $50,000 car and say, "Ooh, I made a mistake," and take it back. So there's a difference between doing an impulse purchase or doing some sort of vanity.
What was Tiger Woods shilling before before the big break he took? Was it Lincoln as well?
No, it was Buick.
It was Buick. Okay.
It was Buick. And so I don't even know how we got on this, but it was HEB.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they used I think they effectively used a local team, and those guys deliver it like the team would. Yeah. They didn't make him do anything crazy, and then they put him in a costume in front of a pirate set, and laughs ensue.
So now we're going to shill.
Yeah, but we like this.
We have a new partner of ours here, Hawthorne, which if you go check them out at HAWTHORNE.co. So it's .co, Hawthorne.co. And it's a men's line of grooming products that John and I have been using. I'm all Hawthorned up today. I use the conditioner in the shower. I use the soap finally.
I like it.
Soap up. And I'm going to say something about the soap. I love the smell. I've got an issue with soap in general now, the soap bars. Sometimes they make them too big. My hands aren't, I got big hands, unlike Trump. But sometimes the bar's a little big. That's a big bar.
Okay.
You notice it's a big bar?
Yes.
And it smells good, but I dropped it a couple times, almost broke my toe.
Yeah, all right, it's a large bar.
Large bar.
So in our household, we have two people who use that. So it will not stay that size forever. Ours is now down to a much more manageable size. And I'm actually thinking, when should I reorder the soap? Because I really like it a lot.
Yeah, I do like the soap too.
And as Tim said, you go to hawthorne.co.co. You take a 2-minute quiz, basically, and they ask you about your grooming habits, and they recommend a variety of their products for you. Aluminum-free deodorant that's all natural. You got the conditioner. I got the shampoo, which I love. And you only have to use a very little amount. Lathers up really fine. And I only wash. I mean, I rinse my hair every day, but I don't put shampoo in it. Maybe 2. And they actually ask you that. How many times do you put shampoo in your hair? And then we did scents, and I got Work and Play. And I think the Work is my favorite, which reminded you of an Hermes cologne, right?
Right. Well, my Work one reminded me of an Hermes cologne. They don't make anymore. But my Play one I like, and it was funny. I had it on the other day, and Richard mentioned it because I didn't tell him I had gotten this, but he recognized the smell. And then I was sitting in the chair, and I thought, I like candles and scents and all kinds of stuff. So I'm sitting there, and I thought, I wonder what that smell is. That smells pretty good. And then I realized it was from my shirt was the cologne. It was my Hawthorne cologne. So.
And then we've been talking about the soap, which I really love as well. And so if you go to hawthorne.co, and you take the quiz, and you end up buying or getting this, product, by all means use the code FOCUS, FOCUS, to get 10% off your purchase. The packaging's amazing. It came really quickly, and
if you want to get it as a gift, you don't necessarily have to take the quiz. You could also just do a gift, and you still get the 10% off as your first purchase.
I didn't know that. Okay,
yeah.
So if you don't take the quiz, you could handpick things.
You could decide what you wanted to do, if you wanted to get somebody the soap or if you wanted deodorant. Well, the cologne, really, I think the quiz, because in terms of when they ask you about things you like smells of, and do you like leather, do you like citrus, do you like these sort, the wood smell, that sort of thing, really helps with the cologne. But I think if you wanted to do a gift pack, you could also just get a code probably, and then somebody can go order themselves.
So it's hawthorne.co, hawthorne.co. The code from our show to get 10% off your first order is FOCUS, FOCUS. I'm just going to say, I think Tim gave a good recommendation. If you're not going to do the quiz, which may be you're right, about may be more oriented towards the scent of the colognes, definitely try the soap. Try the shampoo. You'd like the conditioner, and the deodorant's fantastic. And you could try the cologne as well. But thank you to hawthorne.co for being with us, and I highly recommend that everybody try it. FOCUS is the code. So
you got that. You got that. What caught your eye this week?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John
Santa
found.
Claus sleeping?
Well, what caught my eye was this strange survey that came out of IBM. And the reason it's strange is because the headline says it all. IBM says, our Mac-using employees outperform Windows users in every way.
Read that again.
Our Mac-using employees outperform Windows users in every way. IBM published the results of an internal experiment that undoubtedly sent Apple's sales teams leaping in joy. Since launching its Mac at IBM program, which allowed users a choice in which computer platform they preferred, the company has tracked the results. Said results have been quite favorable for the Mac, using IBM staffers in multiple metrics. Now, the author says, first, keep in mind that these results are being revealed at the JAMF Nation User Conference. JAMF is a software platform for administering Apple devices. So that's a good news story for a company that's actually doing stuff with Apple. The company isn't just announcing this out of the blue. It's making a statement of support from the stage of a major software partner. That doesn't mean these statements are wrong, but it's an important context for evaluating their accuracy. So according to IBM, one staff member, so one of their support staff people, can support 5,400 Mac users, while the company needed one staff member per 242 PC users. Only 5% of Mac users called the help desk for assistance, compared with 40% of PC users. This year, supposedly 22% more Mac OS users exceeded expectations in performance reviews compared with Windows users. While high-value sales deals tend to be 16% larger for Mac OS users. Mac users also have a higher Net Promoter Score of 47.5 versus 15 and are 17% less likely to leave IBM. Mac users are also happier with third-party software availability at IBM, according to IBM's own press release. But given that IBM hasn't released the full data set, it's kind of hard to see if this is actually all, 100% true. So net-net, IBM basically thinks that their staff that use Macs are better performers and generally better workers.
Do you think it's because there's so many more people using Windows?
Possibly, yeah. And then they also said here that the people that raise their hands for the Mac, so if the company says, hey, you have a choice.
Right.
You could use Apple, or you could use Macintosh OS, or you could use Windows. This guy thinks that there are certain people in certain professions who probably always liked Mac. They're probably good performers. They're probably good employees. He literally says they're probably at the upper end of the employment spectrum. So he thinks all the data is skewed anyway because they're people who would normally go for it.
That's the only reason I have Apple products is because when I got my first computer, which I think you bought me as a housewarming gift.
Yeah, that's right.
That little globy thing.
It was one of the first
with the neck on
iMacs.
it.
Yeah, it has the base with the stick.
And ever since then, I kept Apple products because that's what you introduced.
You had a kind of a funny transition because you were so used to the keyboard.
Well, yeah, and because that's what 90% of corporate America uses is Windows-based programs. But I just always felt that the Apple stuff was more secure than the Windows stuff, meaning that you weren't getting viruses as much, or a lot of that Windows-based stuff that I used to use back when I worked in corporate America seemed to get viruses and things a lot. Would that be my imagination?
Yeah, and then of course there's the day we came here to the studio, and one of the hosts, I think it was Bill, he had a MacBook Air, and he would open his web. Remember Bill, the morning show guy? So he opens his MacBook, and ding, 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 all these windows start like popping, like hundreds of windows. And he had a malware. He had but that's so rare. Like I don't see that often on the Mac side.
But I think it's more prevalent on the Windows side. I mean, they used to have stuff all the time. I brought a huge. Remember Holly Raymer?
Yeah.
So she had asked to use, because I was one of the few people at Subaru that had a laptop. And just to make a long story short, she took it to her school for MBA class at Wharton and got a virus on it. And so when I plugged it in, by lunchtime, I essentially shut down Subaru. And they had signs in the elevator, do not open any emails from Tim Bennett. They had them plastered all over the place.
Wait, I don't know this story.
Oh, my God. It was a nightmare.
I've heard so many stories.
She loaded up this whole thing, and I still remember I was mortified. I was embarrassed because everybody was laughing at me. And here I loaned it to Holly as a favor, an employee who worked for me. And then to make matters worse, it was do not open anything from him, do not open anything from him. And I went down to the PR person, Rob.
Uh-huh.
And there was an email that I thought was from Steve Rosen, who worked with us when we did LGBT stuff. But it wasn't Steve Rosen. It was Rosen at Dealer that sent something and then, again, shot it, infected everyone else's machines again. So they finally literally just took the machine away from me.
They had to do a complete purge. They had to put your machine in a white room, get it all cleaned up.
My friend Kate thought that was the funniest thing. She goes, there were signs in the elevator. I said, every elevator, every hallway, do not open emails from Tim Bennett.
They had to use the sneaker network. You had to go to Denise Rondeau, like, Denise, I was going to send you an email, but here.
Well, mine is a little. This happened a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know if they voted on it. I don't think they voted on it yet because I've been following it along. But the headline caught my attention: religious exemption bill that allows students to give wrong answers in school passes the Ohio House. So this is in Ohio.
Wait. A religious exemption bill that allows a student to give a wrong answer.
And you won't be penalized.
I know where this is. I think I know where this is going.
So anyway, if you're watching on the video, I posted some pictures. There's the dinosaur exhibit on the Ark, on Noah's Ark,
which we wanted to go to on one of our road trips, right?
So anyone who knows anything knows there were not dinosaurs then, but apparently there were a couple dinosaurs on the Ark. That's the Kentucky exhibit. In Mitch's hometown. And then a quote from Bill Mayer. So essentially what happened is the Ohio House has passed a bill that would allow students to give wrong answers in school without being penalized, as long as those answers are an expression of their religious beliefs. So, for example, if a student said in their homework that the Earth is only 10,000 years old, which is about 4.5 billion off, right?
Yes.
But because this person believed, based upon their religious beliefs, that the Earth's only 10,000 years off, or 10,000 years old, the teacher would not be able to take points off because that's the student's religious belief.
Wow. Okay.
So now we're in a theocracy. Now we have to have teachers that are schooled in the Bible, right, or religious studies. And so my big question was, which wasn't answered in this article, does this count for non-Christian religious answers? So if I'm Hindu or I'm Muslim or I'm Jewish or whatever, and I have a different belief,
your church or the focus group, and
so
we have our own set of facts.
So
right?
will they accept non-Christian religious answers? So here we go on the slippery slope, right? So all the Republicans voted for it, of course,
Naturally.
no surprise.
This is the Ohio.
This is Ohio. One of the senators, state senators, Timothy Gintner from Ohio, said, though, you're missing the whole point of the legislation. He said the point is that it would allow a student to turn a report in on Moses if they had to do research on a historical figure. And since there's no information about Moses outside of religious context, that this person could do a report on Moses and it would be acceptable, though it is only hypothetical as to Moses' existence. So
is this all about Moses? I mean, like that example. All right, we've seen Moses represented in cinema. Mm-hmm. But the unintended consequences of that thinking.
Slippery slope.
Yeah, it's slippery. It's like
Noah. I want to do pick a historical figure. I'm going to do a paper on Noah. Right.
Yeah.
He built an ark. Right. So anyway, they said the Ohio Democrats said that the bill doesn't make any sense because religious freedom is already protected in the Constitution. They said this just creates a whole different issue for schooling and education. They're trying to fight it. And they said this is anti-science.
It's confusing.
Yeah. But it's a theocracy, right? I mean, and that's why I asked the question. So if I was one of the senators or somebody in the state, I would say that's fine if you're going to allow religious answers on tests. But is it all religions, or am I just doing Christian?
Here's an example. Let's say there's a child whose parents are a Scientologist, and they want to do a paper on Xenu.
Right.
Who the hell is Xenu? Well, Xenu is the guy or the alien
came here and landed in a lava pit
with all the souls from somewhere else that came. And I gotta say, I love when you find these things because this takes. And you and I were talking about this at lunch before the show today, about our upbringing and about schools and about gym class and playground antics. Could you imagine? Like, I can't even imagine our schooling, how different it would have been if teachers had to deal with this. I mean, already they're dealing with disciplinary issues, home issues. Our teachers just taught, and the teachers used to discipline us.
Yeah, you can't do that now. My niece got kicked so hard the other day. She teaches a preschool, and the kid bruised her so badly. I said, I would not be a good teacher right now. She's essentially babysitting is what you're doing. Yeah, a lot of these teachers, and she's in the inner city, which I don't want to, what's the word I'm looking for? Stereotype, but I will. But she's in the inner city, and she said, I'm just trying to make sure the kids come in and they're clean and they slept and they had something to eat before we even get to the point of...
They could learn.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can't even get to the learning piece because there's so much dysfunction, which is so sad. Which is why a lot of young people have not chosen to go in the teaching profession.
Well, my mom the other day, she went on I was talking to her because she had her heart valve surgery and she's sounding much better and much more energetic. And she was talking about a teacher that I had either in Memorial or at freshman year. I don't remember the name. It was Mrs. Poole or something like that. My mom, she said she was the nastiest English teacher. And then she recounts this story where she downgraded a paper I did. She was downgrading Lisa's work. It was every student. She hated it wasn't just us. But she didn't like my mom and she didn't like us because my mom taught in the school. So one day this woman was a pro, she was a golfer, and she was sick one day. A week later, the local paper had a picture of her winning a tournament, a golfing tournament, and the day she was sick. So my mom and a bunch of other teachers went into the principal's office, slapped the paper down, and they actually rescinded pay for the day. My mom
posted on the
my mom said
board.
that was a happy teacher's lounge. All the knives out, right?
Yeah, you can do anything. Now, there was one teacher we had that I remember the girl chewing gum and they taped it to her nose. The teacher took tape and taped it to her nose. She had to wear it all day. And now you couldn't do that now. How about the time when I got my paper handed back to me in a plastic bag?
A
Ziploc bag.
It was because it was poo.
Tell me SHIT shouldn't be touched. Now, I thought it was funny. The class thought it was funny. Now, can you imagine now if that happened? There was all.
Well, how was this? Was it John Moodry? You had John Moodry in Southbury, right? Well, he ended up coming over to Memorial for a while, and I had him in for English one year, and he sees my mom one day, and my mom said this would never happen nowadays. So he sees my mom in the hall and goes, Carol, I got to talk to you about something. She goes, what is it, John? She goes, that boy of yours, John, he can't spell. And if he can't spell, he's going to be a dunce for the rest of his life. We got to get him. Now, imagine telling a parent that nowadays. They'd flip out, whatever. But my mom came home. She says, John says, Mr. Moodry says you can't spell. So I had to sit with her, and I...
You know what's funny about that? Because you've read ever since you were a little kid.
Yeah.
So you would think that would translate, no? You could read, but you can't spell.
You know what made me a superb speller, actually, was my first job out of college. I was a typesetter, typographer. So I would be coding stuff, and every word that I came across that I didn't really understand or something, I had to look up. So I ended up learning. I'm quite a good speller now, but he was right. I was a terrible speller. I could read perfectly fine.
You just can't pronounce. Typical. Business birthdays, Mr. Adler today.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
Born December 4th, 1913, he died February 15th in 07 at 93 in one of our favorite new cities, John, in Boise, Idaho.
We love Boise.
We had a great time in Boise. But Robert Adler, and he's credited with inventing the very first usable remote control. There were a couple of remote controls that were made earlier, but they were fraught with issues. One of them, I was laughing about what they said. So one of them had a huge cable on it, and people would trip over the cable.
The cable ran to the TV.
Cable ran to the TV.
That's hardly what I would call remote, but
they called it a remote because you could sit and it ran along
Okay.
cable. Then other ones were using different types of technology, almost like a flashlight, and the light would change it. But if it was sunny out and sun came in, the TV would just flip. Flip, 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 flip. So that one didn't work. So then they did another one which had radio waves, and that one was rejected because you could turn off the TV in the neighbors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he ended up coming up with his remote, and there was another guy with him at the time that developed this together, and I'll find out his name shortly. But Polley was his last name, Polley. And they were both credited with coming up with the remote. But he left Austria when he was a young kid after the Nazis had annexed it and made his way to the United States. And this is one of these great stories of, here this makes his way here. Ended up having a long career at Zenith. Zenith
when it was
TV.
American-made television,
American-made
right?
television. So he invented and kept improving on the remote control. The one that he and Polley did together ended up lasting for 25 years, up until quite recently.
Whoa,
actually,
25 years!
Yeah, it was the
technology was that good.
From the probably from the late 50s to the 80s. There were no royalties at stake, they said. So they credited both men with this wireless remote creation. He himself, he says he didn't watch much TV. He wasn't a TV watcher. But and he feels that he had he had over 200 other patents at Zenith. A lot of them were related to sound or to tubes or to quality of picture. They have lots of scientific names.
This is the one that...
this is the one, obviously, that everybody leans on.
It's a game changer, if you're right.
The funny thing is that Adler was Jewish, but he would mark the annual approach of Christmas in the early years at Zenith with an informal concert on the building's public address system. He would twist the dials of an audio oscillator and play Christmas carols. The good old days. Can you imagine?
Scientist fun, yeah.
And he was awarded the Edison Medal. He also was awarded an Emmy Award from the National Academy of TV and Arts and Sciences. And his last patent was filed on October 6, 2006, right before his death, for touch screen technology. And the patent was received, but it happened after he had died. The patent was granted. As we said, he died in Boise, Idaho at age 93. Happy birthday, Robert Adler, inventor
By the way,
of the remote control.
93, good long life. And he could actually when he was alive, he could look backward and say, wow, I really did something. I got these awards and I created this thing.
You imagine it's like the person who created the windshield wiper, right? Or something like that.
There was a movie about that. The variable speed motor. Remember there's a whole thing about the auto industry and how they could never figure that out. Someone did, and there was a whole big...
His family did that out of DuPont.
Really?
My friend Kate.
I
I think they still get a penny a wiper. Some crazy thing.
And think about that for a minute. Adds up.
Well, we're not doing any. I want us to do a few things.
I'm working on it, Tim. I'm working on it.
So, those of you who know us here know that our friends at Deep Discount have been with us for quite a while, really since we've come over here almost on our video platform.
Yep.
And be sure to go over to focusgroupradio.com and click on the Deep Discount logo and start shopping away as John does his little shark thing.
Arr, Sharky!
Right now, they've got a sale going on for Cyber Week as we head into Christmas. And there's a sale going on at It's called the Cyber Week sale, as I'm tongue twisted here. And John had selected a movie for both of us.
Oh, and it's because of the new release. So there's a theme here. We'll back into the theme. So I picked I, Claudius on DVD. Why did I pick this? Okay, this is an epic BBC series that spans the history of the Roman Empire from Augustus through to Claudius, a stuttering scholar who learns early to play the fool and stay alive. And it's based on 2 novels by Robert Graves, I, Claudius and Claudius the God. I highly recommend the books, by the way. Robert Graves, I remember reading those in 1 week on vacation, the 2 of them, and I loved them.
You're kidding me.
I loved them. They were really well done.
Historical. Were they really thick?
Yeah, well, historical fiction, but it's so compelling because he did such a great job with the characters.
You had to read that. Didn't you have to read it in grade school, didn't you?
High school, maybe.
7th, 8th, 9th grade?
For I, Claudius. Derek Jacobi plays Claudius, the emperor, and it's got a great cast. John Hurt's in it. Patrick Stewart, who played Caligula there was John. Where is it? I just saw his name. Anyway, the reason we picked this is because it's political intrigue and political drama, and it's the Roman Empire. But we did this because what's the new release? The new release has 2 titles, really.
So the new release is something that I'm surprised you and I never got into. But
I've watched. I watched.
Oh, I thought you didn't like it.
Well, I dropped off at the end of season 6.
Oh, you did? Okay, so you were involved. Game of Thrones, the complete 8th season is on Blu-ray. And everybody I know, I think I'm the only person that
you guys
hasn't
Game of
watched
Thrones
any
fans?
Game of Thrones.
Have you watched this?
Yeah.
Nope.
Love Garrett. Garrett and I, in another life, Garrett and I were married.
Somehow, yeah.
Right, Garrett?
Maybe this one.
Hey, listen. Stranger things have happened.
So I loved it. And if you strip away the dragons and the sword fighting and the gore, at core, it's a political drama.
Right.
Which is why I selected I, Claudius as our thing.
So they have the Game of Thrones, the complete 8th season on Blu-ray, and they also have the Game of Thrones, the complete series on Blu-ray. And I didn't know this. It holds the record as the most awarded series in television history.
Yep.
So the complete series includes all 73 episodes of the 8th season series. And loaded with extra content. Is it something I would like?
I'll tell you this.
Isn't it science fiction-y?
It's fantasy.
Yeah.
The world that the world that R.R. Martin created, Westeros, the fictional planet /
Like The Hobbit?
continent. Well, it might as well be on some levels because he created a whole world and a whole land and a whole system and a whole political thing, but it's feudal.
Yeah.
Meaning it's kings and queens and castles and knights and dragons but the dialogue's great. A lot of the acting's fantastic, and it's a complex political at the core. It's complex because I talked to my mom one day about it, and she loves this show. And I said, "Mom,
really?"
And she goes, "Honey, if you get past the heads getting chopped off and the blood." So how my mom said it. She goes, at the core, she goes, it's a great political drama.
Good versus evil?
Good yeah, but that's the beauty of the Game of Thrones. Whose agenda is what is always a rolling, yeah. So head on over to focusgroupradio.com. Click on the Deep Discount logo to start your shopping. We get credit for that, so we thank you for doing that. And it's Cyber Week sale, which on top of winter site-wide sale, everything's on sale. Great time to buy some stuff over at Deep Discount for the holidays. We recommended I, Claudius on DVD. It's a very, very famous BBC show. Great cast. It's staged sort of like a theatrical play. You've not watched Game of Thrones, I, Claudius, right?
Not in a long time.
So I used to be on PBS back in the day, and we did that because the release this week are two things: the complete 8th season. So if you've collected seasons 1 through 7, you could pick up season 8 of Game of Thrones, or if you don't have any of the previous seasons, now's your time to get the complete series on Blu-ray. And I would say if you haven't seen it, this is the way to see it. You have it all. You go all the way through. You don't have to wait years to see what's happening.
Binge it.
Binge it, yeah. So what do we say, Garrett?
Thanks, Deep Discount.
All right, we're going to take a super quick break, and when we come back, we have a shop talk for you here on the Christmas set, so stay with us.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with The Focus Group.
Try, really try.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
I never try anything. I just do it.
Hey, welcome back to the Focus Group. Tim Bennett here with my good friend and co-host, Mr. John Nash. It's December 4th, and we've broken out our Christmas set. Broken out Christmas. I love our Christmas set. Or our holiday set.
You found this.
Yeah, and I kind of think we should use it all year long.
You know what? If I could figure out a way to change that background to like green and blue sky, yes.
I wonder if you could do that.
Yeah, there's probably a way.
Yeah.
I'll puzzle over it.
So, a couple of weeks ago, Disney had come out with its own streaming service, right?
Highly anticipated. It's called Disney Plus.
It's already been hacked, too, apparently.
Oh, the usernames have been hacked, yeah.
So John had found this article about the reality. There's so many of these streaming services now, whether you have Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime, and the reality of, I'm going to cut the cable, or I'm not going to have such a big cable bill. I'm going to sign up for these streaming services, which could end up being $6, $7, $10, $12, $15 a month.
Yeah.
And someone said, if you add them all up, where are you? Now, the only fault I had with this article, you know what it is.
Well, and to augment what Tim just said, if you added them up, where are you? And if you take it out several years and you were putting money in streaming services and you weren't putting it in, let's say, a savings account, well, specifically the stock market, they actually give you a number that you are missing out on invested earnings.
Right, which
so first, let's hear what your problem was.
No, what I thought was absurd. So you're right. They said if the calculator adds up the costs over 50 years. Well, listen. You really think you're going to be watching Netflix or Amazon Prime or something in 50 years? You're not going to watch it in 1 year.
I anticipated this question. I was reading the article and I thought Tim is going to zero right in on that.
Because it makes no sense. None of this was around 3 years ago.
But you've been paying a cable bill.
Exactly.
For most of your adult life.
We'll be paying something else. I mean, the guy who came to look at my cable the other day said, you're not going to have any hardware in the house. Pretty soon it's just going to come in a wave. And you pick and choose what you want. So things are changing.
Right.
Anyway, my complaint about this thing was if I did this 50 years, of course, it's like saying I get a new iPhone every year, right? That means I've spent $100,000 on iPhones in 50 years.
Well, guess
what?
Well, look, here, I'll read the paragraph. Take someone paying for Netflix's standard subscription and Hulu with no add-ons. That person is looking at a monthly bill of $18.98. And a lifetime aggregate cost. So this is someone. Let's say it's a 20-year-old who's doing this because if 50, they'd be 70. And lifetime. That's 19.
Like the people we know that sell Earthlink.
Yeah. Well, yeah, $19,264. Factoring in the opportunity cost as represented by how much money could have been made investing that money in the S&P 500 over those years, and the lifetime cost balloons to a staggering $87,000. So. If you're spending $19,000 over a 50-year period and you're not investing that, you've lost out on that investment generating $87,000 worth of a return. Now tack on Disney Plus and you're looking at $25.97 a month, or $26,000 over a lifetime, or $119,000 you didn't make in the stock market.
Was this the Debbie Downer Gazette? I mean, where did this come out?
Market Watch. It's a financial thing.
Debbie Downer Gazette.
This was part of a broader. So every year, Market Watch does these things around December.
Make you feel bad about the money you spent.
Or take the bad out, and just to make you think about the money you spent and to say, what if I got rid of this and this? So we have a landline up at the country house.
Get rid of it.
Finally, we're parking the number because we didn't want to lose the number.
Park it?
Well, I found a service that does it.
Well, why keep it?
for a year, I'm having messages come in, and if anything, after a year of $2 a month, so I'm thinking, okay, $24, I could live with that.
Compounded over 50 years.
Stop! You see,
That's $87,000 you're missing out. To park that number for someone in Mumbai to call you to give you a credit card interest rate.
Do you know why Bob likes you so much? Because he plays this bullshit game too. The two of you do this thing. So I sat down one day and I said, I want to go over our subscriptions and all this stuff. And he goes right like,
well, he knows it sets you off.
Well, and then like he'll shut it all down by saying, what about your gym?
Yeah, there you go.
And I'm like, I said, I don't question the money I spend on health and fitness. He goes, why not? Because he goes,
walk around the block.
Because I like being healthy and fit watching TV.
Hey, I do have a question though.
Yeah.
So this Apple TV that came out, how's that different than the Apple box you have with the Apple TV? So this is Apple streaming?
No. So Apple TV is the hardware, and Apple Plus is the
what is
streaming.
that?
It's a service. It's another.
Can you get it through the Apple TV we have?
Since you just bought a new iPhone and you have a new iMac or a new Mac, you can get a free, or a new iPad, you get a free subscription for a year.
How do I do that?
I think you actually have to just go to your iTunes account.
But so
there's not much on there.
You don't get the same stuff that you would at Apple TV. So the little box that you have that says
Apple TV as the device, you can get Prime, Hulu. It's all the apps.
Right.
So Apple Plus is an app, a streaming app, and they have their own content, and they hired studios and producers to create shows for them.
You get confused? I get confused. You don't get confused.
I got Disney Plus to start watching a show that I was talking to Steve about called The Mandalorian. And I'm really it's a Star Wars live action show, the first they've ever done. It's really well done. I'm super happy with it. It's surprisingly good, well written, well produced. I mean, they're spending millions on this thing like it was a movie. But everything else on Disney Plus is movies we've seen as kids, Star Wars, and the Marvel movies, which I don't really care about. So I'm wondering, like, okay, $6.99 a month, I'm not going to keep this. I'll watch The Mandalorian and hit the cancel thing. Yeah. And that reminds me of going back to deep discount. I'd rather spend the money on packaged media because it's a buy once, right? Like if I bought The Mandalorian as a series, maybe it was $14 or $16. I watch it, I enjoy it, I could pass that on to somebody, and I'm not spending $6.99 a month.
That's my problem with the streaming music services too.
Yeah.
Because I used to buy a CD or you buy a cassette or you bought an album, whatever you bought, it was yours, you had it. Something happened, I could play it again. But now I feel like it's not my stuff.
Well, it's not.
But I paid for it.
And that's the thing. Like recently, a number of movies were withdrawn from Apple's iTunes store, and customers were in a rage. Like, what's going on here? And it's because the studio that leased or licensed the movie to the Apple service decided it wasn't going to be in the catalog anymore, and boom, it's gone.
Done.
And so when people complained, everybody was like, "You got to read the small print. You bought the right to watch it as long as we have it." It's like something convoluted like that. And so, I don't know, I'm in the favor of owning the movie if I really want it that bad.
All right.
It's and on the music side too, I was listening to Richard Blade on First Wave the other day, and he had you and I would appreciate this. He was setting up a song. It was like a top 10 in London back in I want to say it was 86 or 87. It was a Pretender song. And he referenced the song by saying, the shame of it is, unless you know the context of albums, not an album, an album.
Album.
If you don't have an album, I'm like, I know an album. He goes, you wouldn't know that they actually, performers created albums as an experience. From start to finish, flip the disc. And he said, here's where this song sat on the album. And then he also played later on a Wham song. And when they became big, so one of their second releases never went anywhere. After they became big, they re-released one of their first things and it went up to the top 3. Only because of their name. Yeah. Which I thought was just like, The
best album I think that does, or disc or whatever you want to call it, is Annie Lennox's Diva.
Fantastic.
And it's perfect.
Journey.
It's one of those journeys. And you miss that when you buy individual songs.
Could I throw in there, like, if you had to pick 2 other of your favorite albums that did that? I think you nailed Annie Lennox a long time ago, and that's a perfect. What other 2 would you say?
There's a lot of the Tears for Fears albums.
Oh, which one?
There's actually one. Of course, I'm going to forget
Not
the name
Songs
of
from
it.
the Big Chair.
No, it wasn't one of. It was one of their more obscure albums.
Later on?
Yeah.
I think I know the cover.
Raoul and the King of Spain, maybe.
It's all that.
Yeah, and it's one of those. I don't even think they had a hit off of it, but it certainly takes you on a full ride. I like that. I think the B-52's early albums were like that as well.
I agree.
Even their most popular one that had Love Shack on it, Cosmic Thing, was like that.
If I listen to one track on ABC's The Lexicon of Love, I might as well just be listening to it from start to finish because Lexicon of Love was like watching a show. Boom, every song.
Well, Brian Ferry did that too. Right?
Yeah, How to Be a Zillionaire, another
Shop
one.
Boys.
OMD, I heard a couple tracks from OMD, Crush, one of their first big hits. And that album cover looked like an Edward Hopper painting. The car is parked and there's this little store thing. Again, that album, if you listen from start to finish, it's got its ups and downs. And I thought that was really cool. So going back to this whole thing here, streaming, choosing our songs by...
Belmont Stone Media.
Well... You know, Pet Shop Boys are the same way. Yeah. Like Bob loves individual albums for not just songs, but the whole album. You know.
Yeah. No, that was the joy of back in the day. Well, we're old men.
All right. On that note, I'll just close the article on from Market Watch about these streaming services. Not a bad time of year to look at what you're spending money on. Don't knock yourself over it. But just think to yourself, do I really need this? Can I save a little here? And maybe you want to spend what you save somewhere else. How do you like that? We could shift the savings to somewhere else. Anyway, we want to give a big thanks to Hawthorne for joining us here. Go to hawthorne.co, HAWTHORNE.co. And if you use the code FOCUS, your first order is going to get 10% off. And we've been using the soap, the deodorant, Tim has conditioner, I use shampoo, and then we like the cologne as well. So check them out. They make a great gift as well. And a big thanks to Deep Discount for joining us here every week. It's a Cyber Week sale. We recommended I, Claudius, a classic PBS Masterpiece Theater set, and that's to complement your viewing of either the 8th season of Game of Thrones on Blu-ray, or if you're new to the series, buy the whole set on Blu-ray as well, the complete series. Thank you to Garrett, Steve in the booth. Garrett, we like your hat as well. And we are... Garrett put that on just for Christmas time.
Christmas time.
So, don't text and drive, arrive alive, and we're going to see you in the new week. So, thank you.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.